Well, welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm Joni Ogg, and it really is a pleasure to have you here for this webinar with CCRA. Today's event is the latest in a series of webinars, and we've held this year to educate agents about the value of booking air and how to do it with CCRA's AirSelect Central tool. And so many agents are now using the tool to build air into their business models, and more are joining every day. And protecting your business is so very important, and we felt the need to start educating agents about the danger of fraud and how to avoid it in your business. We're really pleased to welcome with us today Doug Nass, the Manager in Fraud Investigations at ARC, who will certainly enhance the discussion and add some input on preventing fraud. We hope you see this as a great opportunity to expand your knowledge on the product and how to use it to make your business better. And I'd like to bring on right now Sandy Elson, who is our webinar coordinator, to join us to introduce our speaker today and to give you more information about the webinar. Thank you. Welcome, Sandy.
Thanks, Joni, and welcome to everybody. On behalf of the travel professional community and homebasedtravelagent.com, I also want to welcome all of you to our webinar today, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We have a very exciting webinar hosted by CCRA. As Joni mentioned, our speaker is Margie Jordan, Webinar Coordinator for CCRA. Margie is owner of Jordan Executive Travel Service in Jacksonville, Florida. With more than 20 years' experience as a marketing professional, Margie has built a successful travel consulting business that focuses on culture and upscale experiences. It wasn't long after starting her agency that Margie began to share her creative marketing concepts with other travel professionals. As a speaker for many travel agent conferences and organizations, Margie shared actionable concepts and strategies to help market your agency using social media. Most recently, Margie works with CCRA Travel Commerce as webinar director and continues to share information with agents that will grow and protect their travel business. Margie's topic today is protecting your business, how to keep your agency safe from fraud when using AirSelect. Before we get started, please remember that you are all muted, but we welcome your questions. You can type in your questions at any time during the webinar in the question area you see on the right-hand panel of your screen. At the end of the presentation, Margie will be emailing everybody who is registered or who is here with the answers to the top 10 questions that have been asked. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Margie now so she can get started. Welcome, Margie.
And I am so excited to be here and share this with really great and important information that I think you're going to find really useful. And I'm going to apologize a little bit. I am in Florida, and we're in the midst of a really torrential downpour. And if you may hear some lightning in the background, and I've already had a couple of little audio snafus, so I'm hoping we'll stay good and the power will stay on. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I have a ton of information to share with you, and I want to go ahead and get that process going. So today, as we mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about fraud, and I wanted to give you an overview of AirSelect Central again and talk a little bit about CCRA. CCRA develops products and solutions for the travel professional, and there are many things that I think you would find valuable, including booking platforms, marketing programs, and just a number of things that I think you would find valuable with some of the CCRA products. We want you to have everything possible to function as a full-service agency with as little cost as possible. No one wants to spend a ton of money trying to develop an agency. So what we're going to walk through today is, first off, one of the CCRA products, which is AirSelect Central, and it's a booking engine for air. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're also going to talk about how to keep your agency safe when it comes to dealing with fraud and the protections that are in place with AirSelect Central. So what is AirSelect Central first off? Really, it's a booking engine, and it's an easy alternative to help you book air if you're not using a GDS system and still earn those top-tier commissions on flights, international flights in particular. And I know we've always had the concept that you don't get commission with airfare, but AirSelect Central is a really amazing tool that will actually help you do that. So why CCRA created AirSelect Central is really for that reason, because you need a good system that's going to help you service your clients as a full service agency and provide airfare for your clients. One of the things to note about AirSelect Central is it's not really about finding the cheapest ticket, but the right ticket for your client, which may mean they need a non-refundable ticket, more so than the absolute least expensive non-refundable ticket that they can find. So you want to keep that in mind when you're looking through AirSelect Central, that it's about helping you find that right ticket for your client. Now, in terms of making it easy for you, that means that you'll have an opportunity to collect commission in there. So when we go through, I'm going to show you a quick look at the product. You're also going to see how you can collect commissions, how you can add service fees. So you'll be able to do quite a bit for your clients in there. We want to make sure also with this webinar and the information that we're giving you today that you're going to be able to protect your business, because when you're booking airfare, there's always that questionable feeling of whether this is a legitimate transaction that you're making. So in going through the platform, you're going to get some idea about how this product will keep you safe from some transactions that you may not be aware of that could be fraud. So let me tell you a little bit more about AirSelect Central. There's many reporting tools inside the platform there, and you'll see a few of those. There's a service fee tool that's built in, and then there's easy settlement of commissions and service fees every 2 weeks. There's promotions and there's incentives inside. I think that'll be very beneficial for you as well. And it's pretty easy to use. I think you're going to see that. You can do both domestic and international flights. And it's pretty easy to identify the CCRA preferred partners. And you'll see with the preferred partners, there is a commission structure in place for them. So not only can you collect commission when you're booking with the preferred partners, but you can also add a service fee on top of that commission if you decide to do that as well. You'll see discount and net fares, and you'll be able to avoid a transaction within 24 hours of issuing a ticket. So if you've never done it and you're not sure how this works, then the airline partners are really great with giving you a good update on their product. There's lots of training and there's commission opportunities, as I mentioned before, and then there's lots of great incentives to help you grow your expertise when you're booking airlines. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation because I've spoken with many, many travel agents, and we're pretty hands-off when it's come to airfare. But when you look at AirSelect Central, you may want to reconsider that position, actually. So who are our top preferred airline partners? Well, there's 40 of them, and they do provide commissionable fares, and more are being added all the time. You can see some of the logos we've added here, who are some of the preferred partners that do have a commission structure in place through AirSelect Central. The login is really easy. Once you get to the home screen, you put in your username, password, and your CID number, and all of that is provided to you once you enroll for the program. And then there's two distinct components you'll find. There's a front office system that gives you access to the flight searches and you can process reservations. And then there's an entire back office system that has accounting and reporting features there, and we'll take a brief look at those options as well. So once you're inside of the platform, you're pretty familiar with the process of searching for airfare. Looks very similar, nothing different here that you'll see, but you'll select your cities, your departure and your destination city, the dates you're traveling, and if you have some specific times that your client will want to travel, you can input those. You can also click that little include nearby airports. Sometimes you can get a better deal, as you know, with an airport that may be not far away, but might be close to where they're traveling from. Select your adults, senior, kids, infants, all of that, and then go ahead and hit your search button. Also on that home screen at the bottom, you'll also get a good look at some of our preferred airline partners there. So if you want to get more information about them, you'll see some of them at the bottom of that home page. You'll have some opportunity to explore a little more and get familiar with them. So in the search options, let's go back there a little bit. We have some definite things we can do here to narrow down the search options. If you're looking for a certain category of ticket, whether it be an economy ticket, first class, business class, you can select that. And I know particularly I have some clients who just want to go up one time and down one time. So if you're looking for those nonstop flights, we can have those, we can find those really easy. Or even the refundable fares are very easy to find here when you're doing searching. Now, if you're working with clients who prefer particular airlines, you can select those airlines and only search those airlines. As you see in this example, we've added United Airlines as our preferred airline that we wanted to search. So when you're in here and it's actually doing the search for you, you can see who the preferred CCRA preferred partners are with that blue box. And then you can see the CCRA net discount partners with the green box when they're displayed. So it's pretty easy to determine who is who or what you're looking at when you're in the system. Now with the preferred partners, as I mentioned, those airlines offer up to 25% commission on select itineraries. If you do have an itinerary that is not commissionable or is a net fare or a discounted fare and you want to add a service fee, you absolutely can do that as well. And I'm going to show you how and where you can do that in the system. So when you get your search results back, you can filter those results. You can actually filter by price, the stops again, and you can do a little more with your flight times and the trip duration if you want to be that specific when you're booking your airfare. Now, when you're selecting your price, obviously the lowest is going to be the least expensive for that airline. And as you increase those fares, there might be some additional opportunities in there for a commissionable fare. So you'll want to just kind of take a look through those. Now, when you get your itinerary back and you selected one, you can see quite a bit. For instance, if you're on the phone with a client, you can see this is a non-stop flight and that it has the total flight duration is like 1 hour and 11 minutes there. You can see all of that detail. So it's pretty easy for you to have a conversation with your client when they call, or if you walk into the office if you have an office location, and talk about this itinerary. Now what I want you to note is the price of this fare right now is $388.70, and right underneath it, it tells you it is non-refundable. If you wanted to sell this fare, you simply add it to cart and you would go through the checkout process. If you look in that lower left-hand corner, you can see fare rules. You see that there? And right next to it, if you wanted to email this itinerary to a client, you could do that from this screen. So let's look a little further. If we're adding this to our cart, you have an opportunity inside of here to check out the seat map, and you can assign your seats right there. But I want you to notice something. If you look down at the bottom where it says Agent Override Service Fees, down at the very bottom there, you can add an additional service fee right in this screen and then click Update. Now something to note is that when you're adding those service fees in there, it's actually adding that total to the taxes and fees. So if you see right now that airfare, the total that airfare when we looked at it was $388.70. Basically that's comprised of $336 and change for the fare and almost $52 in taxes. So if you added, and let's go to the next screen, I'll show you. If we added a $25 service fee, you notice that $51 and change goes up to $76 and change for the total taxes. And the total of the price of the ticket changes to $413.70. So it's really simple to do it. When your customer's card is charged, they're going to be charged for the entire $413.70. You won't see that separate service fee cost broken out on their credit card statement. So from here, you can just simply check out. And then once you've hit the checkout screen, You enter your client's information, first name, last name, all of that, email. You want to make sure you have the date of birth. That's required, as well as the gender. And then down at the very bottom there, you can add frequent flyer numbers. So if they're part of a program, you definitely want to include that information in this PNR. So one of the great things about AirSelect Central is it gives you one last time to go ahead and confirm the passenger's name, because you know how important that is. We don't want to make any mistakes there. So you have one last opportunity before processing this PNR to go ahead and confirm their name. So if you need to change it in that final screen, you have an opportunity to do that. And then we're going to get credit card information. So you'll fill this out completely with all of their credit card details, and you'll see the total price of the trip at the bottom. And at the very bottom, there's that Purchase Now button. So you just click that. And then it's going to take you to that confirmation screen, and you see it says reserved ticket pending. So once it is ticketed, usually takes about 20 minutes, if that long, you'll get another status that says it's been ticketed. So this is really an easy process to go through and find airfare and to add a service fee for it and book for your clients. Really, really simple. And then again, you can also go back in if you didn't do it in that initial step, and you can hit that seat map again and maybe select seats if you didn't do it in that first round on that first booking. You can also go back and make those changes. So in the seat selection, take a quick look at this seat map. This is really nice. When you're in here, you can see all sorts of categories of seats. If it's a premium seat where you have to pay a little extra for, you can see that. You can even see the bulkhead seats. You can see ones that are occupied, available. You can see where the restrooms are. That's important to know. You can see exits as well. So it's pretty comprehensive in letting you see just as much as you would see if you were booking this via an airline site. And remember, if you're booking it directly with the airline, you're probably not getting a commission off of it. So what about groups? If you're doing any kind of group airfare, we recommend that you contact the groups department of the airline directly to negotiate that. It's not the best use of AirSelect Central for groups. Okay? So I mentioned there were two distinct parts to AirSelect Central. We talked about booking the flights and the reservations, so I want to just give you a quick little overview of the reports. So from that homepage screen, again, you see the reports drop down, and you can actually go and see what you have reserved under the reservation tab. Trips that are happening tomorrow, if you click that, you'll see everybody that's traveling tomorrow. You can see canceled bookings, and customers traveling is really nice. If you do a lot of air and you click the customers traveling, you can see everybody who is in process right now, whether they're sitting in an airport or whether they're actually in the air. You can see everybody who's flying right now. You also have commission projection reports, meaning commission that you've earned but still needs to be reconciled, or you can see the reconciled commission report, which means commission that you've earned, it's been reconciled, and you're probably going to get a check cut fairly soon. So you have some great intel back there to see kind of what's happening with your clients and with your business. Now, if you're searching for a reservation, it's really easy to do. You can go in and put the PNR number in and search right from that home screen. Really easy to find your reservations. Also on the home screen at the bottom, if there are any announcements that are happening in regards to the airlines or CCRA, our preferred partners, you would see it down there, and you would be able to click and get updates right there on the home screen. So now you're ready to start taking bookings, I know, with AirSelect Central, and we want to talk about how to help you prevent fraud. So I want to just kind of go over this whole approval process, first off, to begin using the product, and then we're going to talk about how AirSelect Central helps you with fraud and just really what fraud is and how you can prevent it in your own business. So if you're interested in using AirSelect Central, and I hope you are, there's a couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need a copy of your seller of travel certificate, and you're going to need some IRS documentation of your legal business name. You need a copy of a voided check from an active business bank account, and then you need proof of an appointment by ARC, CLIA, IATA, or True. Now, a couple of things. If you're with a host, you must have at least one of those credentials in your agency name. I know when you get the CLIA card sometimes from a host agency, they're in your own name, but we need credentials that are in the name of your agency, not in your own name. So if you don't have anything, you can apply for the True Code in order to use this service, because that's really the only one that we control is the True Code. If you do have the True Code, the approval process to use AirSelect Central is pretty quick because you're already part of the CCRA family and the personal guarantees are already in place, so we don't have to so much get all of those same details from you. So let's talk about a little bit about fraud prevention. We're really concerned about this, and we've taken steps in the AirSelect Central product to help you prevent that. So one of the things we do is we only work with registered agencies that have signed an agreement with ASC. And the reason being is it's really difficult when you're dealing with fraud. If there's any issues with a transaction, those are charged back to a business. And we want to make sure that these businesses are credentialed correctly and that everything is in place, that these are legitimate travel agencies. So we want to make sure that that's the case. And ASC is a really secure website, but to remain PCI compliant, we don't store credit cards in the system at all. So here are a few tips. We're going to talk a little bit about fraud now. And because it's such a big concern, we want to explain a couple of things to you so you understand there's two different types that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about friendly fraud and intentional fraud. And I know you're probably thinking, how can fraud be friendly? But when you'll kind of understand what this means when we go through this process a little bit. But friendly fraud is when you book an airline ticket for a customer and they later decide they don't want to pay them because they can't go or something's going on. Some examples of this would be like a non-refundable ticket that's purchased and their circumstances change. They can't go, they call you, and they tell you they can't travel. They need to cancel this ticket, but it's non-refundable. What will often happen, and it's called friendly fraud, is that the customer, thinking that this was a refundable ticket, will dispute the charge with their credit card company or their bank and say, we never got our money back. In this instance, who would be liable? The booking agent would be liable. And there's another example of that, and this one I thought was actually pretty funny. A husband purchases an airline ticket to go to a major sporting event, but the wife's not having it. She's like, you're not going at all. And she calls the credit card company to dispute the charge. Who's liable? The booking agent is liable. When we talk about intentional fraud, we're talking about things that criminals are intentionally doing to steal money off of credit cards, to purchase tickets with intentional harm. And when it comes to intentional fraud, you've probably seen the little emails that you get from a random person talking about they want to buy a ticket from one destination to another. It's a real quick purchase. You can pretty much bet that most of those are going to be some form of intentional fraud. And ARC and law enforcement are really on top of this. And we're going to see how we kind of deal with each of those scenarios here in a bit. But there is liability in even an intentional fraud case, but really ARC and the law enforcement are who determines where that liability lies. So you're going to see that having some documentation when you're doing your airline tickets is going to be helpful to you. So one of the ways to protect yourself from intentional fraud is just to know your customer. When you're bringing on new customers, one of the things you could do if you're not familiar with them is to hop on Google Earth and verify their address. See if it's a real live address out there that somebody could be potentially living at. So you can hop on, you can just do a quick Google search for Google Earth or even Google Maps, because you can have an Earth feature there. Type in that address and see if it's a real live spot. And then you want to use the reverse phone number lookup, if you can, to verify phone numbers that are in the area of the address provided. So if I'm called you and wanted to book a ticket, and I'm telling you I'm living in Jacksonville, Florida, but I give you a Texas phone number, that might be a signal for you to look a little further and make sure this is an actual real transaction, that this isn't something that's going to be fraudulent. And what we're also seeing is that people are actually setting up fake websites to look like legitimate businesses. So you want to be sure that the business is real and it has a solid reputation if you're doing corporate travel. It's really quick to throw up a website in just a few moments and look like you're a legitimate long-term business online. So you want to do a little bit of checking to make sure this is a legitimate business. You want to check out the business ratings maybe on the Better Business Bureau. If it's a local company in your area, you might even want to consolidate your new relationship with this company by actually going to the business location and meeting with the representatives and getting a feel for this company to make sure it is actually a real valid company. And then you want to see if their phone number appears on caller ID when they're calling you. I don't know about you, but when I get those calls that says there's no caller ID or it's blocked or any of that, that's a warning sign to you that somebody that's hiding from something for some reason. So you want to take that with a grain of salt and just be a little more cautious when you are working with someone who's blocking a phone number. And then be cautious when you're accepting those third-party credit cards. I'm traveling, but somebody else is paying for it. CCRA's policy is we don't accept third-party cards unless the agency signs a waiver accepting liability for this transaction. So you want to be extra careful if it's somebody who needs an airline ticket, but they're not the card holder themselves. So be extra careful. Yes, sir.
Margie, this is Doug at ARC, and I just wanted to add a little bit about the telephone number especially. We have a lot of fraudsters who love to make up telephone numbers using VoIP, Voice over Internet, and a lot of these telephone numbers can be easily picked out by what you specifically mentioned, reverse lookup, and you can do that through whitepages.com. It's a great free site, and you just input the area code and the rest of the telephone number, and if it comes back and it gives the subscriber and it says anything like VoIP, you have no idea where that person is in the world. The fraudsters know that if they're going to be hitting or targeting, say, travel agencies in the Dallas area, he's going to create a VoIP telephone number with the area code 214. Mm-hmm. So these guys are, they do their homework, but it also doesn't take very long to do just a little bit of checking, like you mentioned, to get an idea that maybe this person isn't where they claim to be from.
Doug, that's a really great point. The whole VoIP services out there are a dime a dozen, and I know even a lot of us as travel agents have VoIP numbers that forward to our cell phone, so this is a really easy thing to do. And a lot of it they can do without any cost at all, so very, very easy to do. And great point, Doug. And if you guys didn't know, Doug Nass is on, and he is with ARC, so he's going to be chiming in and giving us a little more insight from time to time. So I wanted to kind of continue on this, how to protect yourself from fraud. So if you're requiring your customers to provide copies of their credit card and driver's license, passport, you need to be sure you know what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I have probably 18 years experience as a graphic designer, and I will tell you from my perspective, I can create anything you want me to create. I can create absolutely anything and make it look extremely authentic. So you need to understand what you're looking for if somebody sends you a copy of an ID or a passport. So one of the ways you can do that is with the ID checking guide, and the website is on the screen. The ID checking guide gives you guidelines and things you need to know that are standard on every sort of passport and driver's license in the continental U.S. And Doug, there's also a international version, is that right?
Um, we haven't been using that in the last year or so. We have been simply uh, in Google put in. I just did this yesterday. Passports from Belarus, just to
Mm,
see what they're supposed to look like. So once
that's a good
again,
idea.
you can really see what the latest information is by using our good friend Google.
That's a good idea. So there are certain formats that driver's license and passports use. For instance, do they spell out the month and say March, or do they say MAR, or do they just use 03 for the month? Those are things you need to know when you're looking at IDs, so you know that what you're looking at is hopefully a legitimate ID. So you'll want to know what you're looking for. And Google is just a wealth of information, so that's a great option as well. And then a couple of things to know is, are your customers departing from an airport that is nowhere near your location, or are they originating outside of the U.S. somewhere? Some of those should be red flags for you, should be things that you want to, that would make you want to investigate who you're booking this air for a little bit more. And then, do they need to depart immediately? Are they calling you today for a ticket leaving tomorrow or Friday? If that's the case, that's another red flag. You'll definitely want to check a little more into that. And while there are some circumstances that really might mean you need to leave today or tomorrow, it should still raise a little bit of a flag for you if you're not familiar with this person that you're booking the ticket for. And CCRA in particular in AirSelect Central will not allow departures within 24 hours domestically and 48 hours internationally. So you wouldn't even be able to book a ticket in AirSelect Central that was leaving tomorrow, just for that reason. So something you definitely want to use as a red flag.
Yeah, and Margie, um, a lot of our fraudsters we see will make, he's a first-time caller, he's a first-time emailer. They, going back to the scenario of picking on Dallas agents, the first ticket that he's going to order is something very mundane, Dallas to New York, 2 weeks out, no big deal, no red flags. Once he knows that the travel agent will issue that ticket, he's going to either wait a day or two and then call back, and then he's going to start asking for those last second international tickets. That's a clue, but we call that first purchase a straw purchase.
That's really good to know too. It's the fraudsters are so good at, first off, finding you and then kind of baiting you a little bit to see what you will do, and then taking it way to the extreme. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
We we have this red flag list that really is from ARC, that is really, really great. And it's good to have handy near you if you're booking a lot of air, and especially if you're new to the industry and you're just not sure. It's really good to have this close. Some of those things would be the credit card holder is not the passenger. Um, Again, we mentioned that might be a red flag. And one of the things, Doug, and maybe you can comment a little more to this, is the customer tends to use a religious title or a doctor or something that kind of generates a little more respect and not quite as much suspicion. Is that right?
Yeah, they've been doing this for the last 20 years, 20 plus years. They love to use the title of doctor. It gives them a perceived notion of social respectability, and they always give you a story as to why they need last second tickets for patients, or they just have all kinds of stories. And when it's from then they will continually use doctor so and so, and it's just a way to manipulate the agent into helping them out.
I agree. And one of our red flags on the list is that they use the airport codes in the emails. And I know I've gotten a number of those where they're asking to go, instead of a city and a state, they're asking to go from an airport code to an airport code, and that's because they've researched them. They know this. They know all of this very, very well. If they're not concerned with the ticket price, that's another red flag. You should give that a little extra attention and a little extra care when you're working on it to make sure this is a legitimate sale. So take a look at the list, and we have actually a way for you to get this. I know you can get this on ARC. Is that right, Doug?
Yeah, when you sign up on our new fraud prevention web pages, when you sign up to receive alerts, then I believe we will automatically send you this credit card red flags checklist.
Well, and with that, you definitely should sign up for that. I actually did and got an alert about another thing that we'll share with you here in the webinar. So you should sign up for it, and it'll kind of tell you what things ARC is seeing in terms of fraud with airline tickets. So it's worth signing up for. When it comes to where they're traveling, there are several high-risk cities that you'll want to be aware of. And some of these I know you already know. But there's a nice list here: Abidjan, Bamako, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, Accra, Ghana. We know that one very well. You have Cape Town, Johannesburg, Tunis, Freetown, Dakar, many of the cities there in Africa. So you'll want to pay particular attention when you're getting requests for travel to or from either of these high-risk cities, because that is a definite red flag for you. And then when it comes to ASC, when it comes to AirSelect Central, we have extra measures in place that if you're booking airfare to any of those city pairs or those cities themselves, there's extra measures in place to make sure this is a valid, legitimate transaction. So let me give you a real-life scenario. On January 6th, an ASC agent received a call from a brand new customer, and this agent was fairly new in the business. This customer needed to book a ticket from Abidjan in the Ivory Coast to Casablanca, and a friend would be flying from the U.S. to Casablanca on January 20th. So all the red flags, the city that they're flying from, new customer, everything pointed to this being a fraudulent transaction. And the ASC staff recommended this agent not accept this reservation because they were new to the industry. This just didn't seem typical, normal, high-risk transaction, and the agent ended up not booking it and seemed quite appreciative that they didn't have the liability of those charges coming back. So it's just about being aware of kind of what's happening out there and things that might put your business at risk. So here, you can register for the fraud alerts, as we talked about earlier, which we totally recommend you do. And then we recommend at CCRA that you take those things, the fraud alert, and you take that and you print it out and you keep it there with you if you're doing airfare. You take that list of those high-risk cities and you keep that handy as well. And you just kind of keep your antenna up when you're talking to new clients. I know a lot of agents shy away from clients that want referrals, but you really want to grow your business and open it up and give it a little more exposure and offer your clients a full service with airfare. And you don't have to be so leery of it. You just want to be aware of kind of what's going on and how to protect yourself should there be some risk involved there. So I want to talk about, go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, let me add, for the high-risk cities, I'd say in the last year and a half, we have also been putting our spotlight on the Caribbean and South America. We are seeing a lot of fraud out of places like Santo Domingo, SDQ, Lima, Peru, Bogota, Colombia, Pereira, Colombia, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Quito, Ecuador. These are equally definitely high-risk airports to be issuing for new clients.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. Recently, I mentioned that I had signed up for the ARC fraud alerts, and this is the latest one that I received that I think you guys should know, especially if you're operating as a host or taking on independent consultants. There has been some reports lately, and and Doug, you can comment here as well. I don't know if it's mostly with Canadian agents, but there has been some reports where the fraudsters are actually signing up as independent consultants with accredited agencies. And once they get access to your IATA numbers, that they are actually booking fraudulent tickets themselves. That's a pretty scary proposition, right, to think about. Doug?
Yeah, this just happened earlier this month. We actually alerted the host agency that we thought some of the transactions coming out of there were coming, they looked very risky. We asked them to, sort of explain, give an idea of what was going on, and they said, oh no, these are existing customers, and we just sort of let it go. But then about a week and a half later, they came back and said, you know what, that fraud alert that you guys gave us really is fraud. We're starting to get the debit memos. And this particular fraudster, he's operating out of Colombia, but he had done his research on 3 Canadian agencies and was able to spoof their email addresses. He found out what their legitimate email address looked like, and then he created one very similar to the 3 Canadian agencies. He found out what their IATA numbers were, and that was all that the host agency in the U.S. needed, and he signed them up and gave them remote ticketing authority. And in about a 2-week period, they ran up the exposures about $55,000 in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that's kind of scary.
That is crazy. That's very scary. Doug, I would love to hear if you have any tips for us when we're dealing with bringing in independent consultants in terms of making sure these are not fraudsters.
Yeah, you need to find ways to independently verify their information that they're supplying to you. As we mentioned, Google is one of your best friends. Google telephone numbers and email addresses and physical addresses. Find out is there a history, or are these people a ghost, that they have no presence out on the web, no references to their supposed business. Try to find ways to verify who they are. And there's a number of free sites that you can use. Like I said, whitepages.com is a great one, in which you can do reverse telephone number, reverse address. You can go to a place where I know a number of U.S. travel agents and some up in Canada, when they get a suspicious telephone number, they will go on to a website called whois.com, WHOIS.com, to find out if any other business or any persons are complaining about callers using that telephone number. Sometimes you'll find that the agent also gives an email address that is associated with that telephone number. And these are all free internet tools that anybody can use, and in about 5 minutes of searching, you can get a better idea about, am I comfortable dealing with this person, whether it's an independent contractor who's approached you to sign up with your organization, or new customers. It works both ways.
This is really good information, really, really great information. So here are a couple things, and just a little more in terms of what Doug was mentioning, that we can do to verify some independent consultants, you want to have at least 2 business references from them and require them to provide proof of their E&O insurance to you so you can kind of get a feel that this is a legitimate person wanting and having an interest in the travel agency, in the travel industry. And obtain a notarized picture ID if you can. That definitely helps as well. You might want to verify this person through internet searches like Doug was talking about. He gave you a good couple of resources where you can do that with. So make sure you just do some due diligence when you're checking these people out. Monitor their ticketing and approval for same-day, next-day departures. Again, those same-day, next-day departures are all red flags for you. And then you also want to also look and see if the cardholder and the passenger are the same on some of the things that they're ticketing. These would all be red flags for you when it comes to working with independent consultants and their ticketing habits. So again, I don't want this to freak you out and make you concerned about it because you have a great amount of support through AirSelect Central and through ARC to help with this sort of thing and to maybe talk about some of the transactions that you're doing if you're concerned about a particular transaction or client. So you have some resources available to you there. But it looks like we do have some time for questions. And I didn't think we'd make it through, but we did really good, Doug. So we have a little bit of time for questions if Sandy wants to pose a few of those.
Okay, thank you to both Margie and Doug. We have questions about the AirSelect Central program in general and about fraud. So let's see if we can get a sample of these. One of our agents wants to know if you're going to add hotel, air, and car together for one itinerary.
In AirSelect Central right now, it is just the air.
Okay, let's see. If someone's already a member of CCRA for hotels, is the sign-up process the same for AirSelect?
Well, if you're already a member, there's a separate sign-up process for AirSelect Central because there's a certain set of credentials that you'll need. If you have the True Code already and you're a True Code member, then that sign-up process is much faster.
Okay, excellent. Do agents need a seller of travel certificate individually if they are part of a host agency?
You need what the credentials you will need to be in your name. Yes.
Okay, and does errors and omissions insurance cover friendly and intentional fraud?
I'll let Doug answer that.
No, they do not. At least in my 20 years, I have not heard of a payoff because of the errors and omissions for credit card fraud.
Okay. Margie, does CCRA have an emergency number for after-hours issues?
There is an after-hours support, yes.
And did you go over the cost of the AirSelect program?
I did not, but that cost is available on the website. So I think did I give you the website? I don't think I gave you the website. There you go.
Okay, great. And I think we'll take one more question, and that is, how do agents sign up for a True Code?
Oh, you can just go to the website as well to sign up for the True Code. If you want, and I'll get a copy of the questions, right, Sandy?
Yes.
I'll reach out to you with links for those sites to sign up for True Code, and as well as to get your application kit for AirSelect Central if you like.
Okay, great. And are you still going to be emailing our agents on this call today with the answers to some of these questions?
Yes, we will.
Okay, excellent. I think that just about does it. I want to thank you so much. Our host today has been CCRA, and our speakers have been Margie Jordan, owner of Jordan Executive Travel Service and webinar coordinator for CCRA, and Doug Nass from ARC. Thank you both so much for this really valuable information.
Thank you.
And thanks so much to all of our agents for being with us today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.